Olympus Fallen? Is Olympus going the way of the dinosaur? Well, let's hope not. And let's talk about it for a second. So, stay tuned.
Who said anything about negotiating?
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. Alright, this week's episode is a little different than our usual tutorial about how to do something or the values of this and that. Today's topic is about the potential loss of one of the big players within the camera industry, and I'm sure by now you've probably heard of it. If not, you must be living under a rock somewhere. But Olympus Cameras announced just this week that they've made arrangements with an investment fund named Japan Industrial Partners to buy their camera division, and that's a shock to a lot of camera users out there.
No, 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 hell no, 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 I refuse, no.
Especially Olympus camera owners. But it's just something I wanted to talk about today. Because Olympus is not just some run-of-the-mill name brand in the camera industry. They've been around for a long time. I mean, Olympus was founded in 1919. That's 101 years ago. Now, of course, back then they weren't making cameras. They were focused on microscopes and thermometers. But still, the company's been around that long, so it's a 100-year-old company.
So old!
And they developed their first cameras, their first camera, back in 1936. And they've been developing cameras and building cameras since then. And even more importantly is the use of their lenses. The Zuiko name brand is what they brand their lenses as, and their lenses are wonderful. Their camera bodies I've never used. They went from obviously traditional film cameras like everybody else, and in 2010 they were the first company to actually develop micro four thirds, which a lot of users out there are into that system, both with Olympus and Panasonic. But micro four thirds was developed by Olympus, as well as the lenses themselves. They're the largest manufacturer of micro four thirds purpose-built lenses. And again, I haven't used those, so I can't speak as to how good they are, but I hear that they're pretty good. So anyway, that's what I mean. The whole purpose of this was to just kind of discuss that and where potentially it could be going, because investment fund companies aren't well known for being people or companies who would purchase another company and then move it on towards bigger and better things. If you've ever seen Wall Street or Pretty Woman, those old movies, well, the characters, Michael Douglas and Richard Gere in Pretty Woman, their characters played investment funds, companies who would come in and they purchased these big companies, and the whole real purpose for it is to buy that company and to butcher it up into smaller pieces and sell them off to the highest bidder and make a nice profit on it.
Sell! I want you to get out there and sell, sell, sell!
So that's what, of course, a lot of people worry about with this JIP company. But, you know, it may not be such a, not to use the term JIP, it's like a jip. It may not be a big jip to the Olympus fans out there who use the equipment and hope that it can still maintain its reputation and grow from there, because that's what a lot of people worried about. The same company, Japan Industrial Partners, purchased Sony's Vaio laptops, the computer system, in 2014. And you know, Vaio again was developed by Sony back in 1996. You know, and it had its followers. It had a lot of customers who were happy with the product, but Sony had the idea that they wanted to focus more on mobile devices and wanted to get out of the computer business. So they sold off that division to JIP in 2014. Now at that point, JIP actually continued to sell the product and develop it along, but it was only in Japan. So for 4 years, you could only buy a Vaio laptop in Japan. But in 2018, they opened up the doors and started selling product in around the rest of the world. And they've actually released a new product as well. So they developed something new. So that's, again, not very common for investment funds to do. But this particular group, Japan Industrial Partners, actually did this. So that may be good news for Olympus fans out there. You never know, though. It's their company now, or it's not even. I think September or something like that of 2020, they're supposed to nail down the finals, financials and whatnot, and close the deal on this. Now, of course, even just last year, you know, the CEO of Olympus, Yasuo Takeuchi, I think his name is, if I say that correctly, hinted towards the fact that the camera division was not off limits to being sold. And of course, the company, you know, got bombarded with all kinds of questions and this and that at the time, and they tried to spin it off as like, well, he didn't really mean that it's for sale. He's just, you know, it was just something they said, almost kind of like a Trump-esque kind of thing of, well, he didn't really mean that. But it ended up being true that that's exactly what he meant. So anyway, so, you know, why is Olympus doing this? You know, is it the fall of Olympus, as what's that movie, or Olympus Has Fallen? You know, it was actually a pretty good, entertaining movie. But of course, had nothing to do with Olympus, the camera. It was the White House. But anyway, you know, has Olympus fallen? No, I don't think so. Or at least the company is definitely not, because now it's just like Sony claimed it was doing this to focus on its mobile product line. Olympus is claiming that, you know, they want to focus on your butt.
Stop staring at my
Things you can shove up your butt. And by that, of course, I mean endoscopes. And of course, endoscopes go in both ways. They go in your butt and they can go down your throat the other way too. But no pun intended on the butt. That's what they want to focus on. Now, they already have 70% of the world's market on endoscopes, but that's, you know, their claim anyway, is this is what they want to do, because over the last 3 years in a row, Olympus has been losing money on their camera division. And you know, that kind of is a reasonable you know, excuse for it too, but mostly because, you know, you have Micro Four Thirds at such and such a market price. And you know, in the last few years, full frame camera prices have been coming down bit by bit by bit by bit. And if, you know, most photographers out there, if they have a choice, you want to go with micro four thirds or you want to go with the full frame, you know, most photographers would rather have the full frame, especially if the camera body itself was smaller, the lenses were smaller and everything else. So it kind of justified it, because that's what the whole selling point was. A micro four thirds, or APS-C for that matter, was the size of the body and the size of the lenses. So it was very compact and whatnot. But anyway, that's kind of my take on Olympus and its current state of affairs. And with any luck, you know, things will still, you know, spin off, and this camera, or this investment firm, Japan Industrial Partners, JIP, will kind of continue along like it did with Sony's Vaio and make it its own brand. And, you know, perhaps they'll develop camera bodies, perhaps they'll develop just the Zuiko lenses. We're not sure which way they'll go. Nobody knows, of course. No one can see the future. But hopefully that's what they're going to do, because it's a good name brand. And you know, I've got a couple of Zuiko lenses myself that I use adapters, and I put them on my Sony camera bodies or my Canon camera bodies, and they're good quality lenses. First one is my 50mm 1.4, the G Zuiko. You know, each model has its own way of designating things, but on these particular, on the 50mm, the G stands for the seventh letter of the alphabet. So it is a 7-element lens, and it's a very good quality lens too. There's plenty of other YouTube videos that you could review on these lenses too, to see the quality of them. And this is a, you know, again, this is a vintage lens from 1986. This particular model. You know, it's a good quality lens, good, well built, nice smooth focus ring on it. And again, they're manual focus, of course, because they're vintage lens. They didn't have auto focus at the time, but they're very small. Is the other thing. This part is the adapter. So you take that off. That's the size of the lens itself. Very sweet. My other one is the 28mm. This one is an f2, so it's not as common. The most common ones are at 2.8. So this is more of a rare version. So this is a 28mm f2. It's the multi-coated Auto W version. This one's a later model than this one. This one's 1990, 95-ish, I'm gonna say. And again, this is on a EOS M adapter for my Canon. But you take that off and you see the size of it. Actually bring it down to its smallest size, and it's only this big.
That's what she said.
It's like the smallest 28mm you could buy at the time was the Zuiko Olympus lenses. So you know, again, they're sharp. They have great reviews. Philip Reeves does a nice review on this particular lens here with a lot of photos. So I'm going to link that up here in the corner, so you guys can check out that that site. If he has a video, I'm not even sure if he has a video or not. If not, I'll leave it down in the description as to where you can find the review on this. So anyway, that's kind of where I want to just close this off. Is it a sad day for Olympus?
The day the music died.
Yeah, for them as a company, you know, it's been, you know, a long time, 3/4 of a century. They've been you know, putting out cameras and dabbling in the photography world. Now the company's not going away, of course. Like I said, they're going to focus everything on examining your butt with the endoscopes. But you know, the lenses themselves are out there on the market. That's not going away either. And hopefully JIP, Japan Industrial Partners, is going to move the business forward and keep developing, hopefully some innovation, maybe do some R&D, even though, again, investment fund groups are not known for sinking money into research and development, but hopefully, fingers crossed, that they will, and Olympus will still be a player in the market. So again, with that said, I think that's pretty much where I want to wrap it up for here. Hopefully the future still looks bright and shiny for Olympus, and all is not lost. So Olympus has not fallen. It's just taking a little vacation, and hopefully it'll come back from vacation all nice and suntanned and ready to rock and roll out there.
What the hell happened to you?
Kimmy and I fell asleep on the beach.
So with that said, remember, if you want to see more of these videos, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that like button. You know, I wish you all the best, and we'll see you in the next episode. So take care.
Here I am, Vietnam.